So the case for a 100x gem of a coin, which is Oasis Network, in my opinion, would be a $4.5. I'm going to try and say to you that this is potentially possible with a little bit of evidence, speculation, but also a degree of a blueprint that I like to talk about in terms of a coin that comes out at a certain point, but doesn't get its full day in the sun. I talk about this a lot on my Patreon regarding what I kind of look for, and it has been proven in the past with my past investments. This one fits the bill, and I'm going to go into why. So, as you can see here, $4.5 would be a 100x from this point with a circulating supply of 6.3 billion. I will come on to that in a bit. But in regards to that, that would be a $25.6 billion asset. Sounds a bit far-fetched, but cryptocurrency has a habit of this thing called what goes up tends to go up higher than you ever think. Also, what goes down tends to go down lower than you think as well. 4 cents is the current price. So, what is Oasis Network? In this price prediction video, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what it is. So, zooming in, we have a layer 1 decentralized blockchain designed to uniquely scalable, privacy first and being versatile, right? So it has 2 elements, consensus layer and a parachain layer. As you can see on the image, it's pretty straightforward, but high throughput, it's scalable, and a proof of stake consensus, i.e. you can make some passive income for securing the network, as well as the paratime layer. Huge elements, an Ethereum virtual machine element within it. But the main thing that I like about this, the privacy element comes first. So let's talk about the obvious. Now, I did a tweet or an X or a post or whatever you want to call it not too long ago regarding it reminds me of Cardano in terms of it has part of a bull cycle. It did not fit its full pricing potential, and it had been developing hard and developing partnerships. The partnership element of Rose is pretty damn impressive. And that's what the chart looks like. And we're going to go over that in more detail. But another thing as well, this is a fantastic image here by Ed, right? Now, whether you believe or not, where you think cryptocurrency may well go in the future, whether that is 4 trillion, 5 trillion, maybe even higher than that. Remember, the previous high of the cycle was pretty decent. Let's be fair. We hit and topped out at $3 trillion. We could potentially go to that point or even higher. Now, on the left-hand side here, above my bonds, we have market share dominance. How much dominance do you reckon that Rose may well have in the market versus everything else? Now, I do not think it's going to be 0.1, but for the purpose of this video alone, if we are going to go with 0.1, even at a 4 trillion market cap, it is a 40 cents, not far away from its all-time high. Regardless, 5 trillion, you can see. But for me, I think easily between these points of 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 are pretty achievable if we hit those high numbers. That will put this in the ballpark very, very easily at a 50x game, which is pretty mental. But one assumption here is the assumption of BTC supply in the right-hand corner here, but also all 10 billion Rose tokens in circulation. This is not actually realized for 10 years, right? So we've still got quite a few years to go on, right? Let's just think of it that way. However, let's talk about what we are looking at. So if you don't know this, it's roughly a 14x to its all-time high, which is roughly around 60 cents. Huge, right? And I do think we're going to go above that because of the fundamentals of this project and the partnerships, the developments, and ultimately what it actually freaking is. But as I say, going back in time, it didn't really come out at a perfect time. It was kind of launched mid to the end of 2020, and that was when the market was roaring. At the point of this point here, the thing that's weird is this topped out 3 months after the altcoin market kind of regressed, right? You can see here, 10th of January. The market top for Bitcoin was actually here, roughly around the 11th to 15th of November. That's a big alarm bell thinking, well, why did that happen? This just didn't get fully going, in my opinion. And the developments kind of wore off because, let's be fair, people don't forget price. They just look at the price. Remember that? Remember that, please, because people just look at the price and they don't look at developments, they don't look at all the stuff that's happening in the background. This is why everyone's like flooding everyone and it's a nightmare. So with regards to that, look at this for a consolidation period. It is massive. And I've talked about it before. It gives you Cardano vibes. It really does. So if we're talking about price predictions in terms of where it can go from this point, if we're looking at this level here alone, going to 24 cents, you're literally on a 6x. Going to the 6 and 8 levels, pretty much a 9x. And as I said before, pretty much a 14x, right, to the all-time high, which is crazy. But when we compare it back to Cardano, $1.14 or whatever it was on the first cycle, and it went to $3 plus in the second cycle, are we going to see a similar sort of thing? Well, that's the interesting point. Now, look at the Fibonacci levels, which is kind of what I do. If you're new around here, I use Fibonacci and key levels. For me, these are clear and obvious key levels and targets where you should probably take some profit. If you're buying at 4 cents and you're not taking anything, even if it's 5-10% off the table, like 25 cents, when you've realized a 6-7x, you probably should be. And likewise, same with, say, 38 cents or even 6 cents. Take some money off the table. Reward yourself for being here in this annoying time period, right? But fundamentals. When we talk about this, yeah, network effect is pretty good with Rose. It's looking relatively good. The developments are looking great and things are looking pretty hunky-dory. However, the Fibonacci is not going to give us a true reflection of where it could go, but they are the numbers: 94, $1.51, $2.07, and $2.63. Now, if we're going to look at this, when we look at that chart versus the other rest of the market, it didn't really do much. It went from 5 cents up to 60 cents. So it did a 10x in the height of the bull market. As I say, didn't really have much time in the sun, had enough, but as developments kind of, carried on going, the price fell, then people didn't get interested and everything happened. But you've also got to remember the unlock phase. Let's talk about the most obvious thing in the world. And let's be honest here. Let's just go on to this. Token unlocks. This is where people start to talk about certain projects in a negative way. And I've already alluded to it, right? What I said before is pretty much set in stone. The events are going to happen. Of course they're going to happen, but the full unlock or full dilution is going to be in 10 years. So we've still got a long time for this, right? As you can see. But it is getting pretty harsh, but it will at some point start to level off, and then it's not going to be as much of a factor. This is why we're talking about the total value at a certain level, right? This is currently, you can see, much, much higher. But overall, will it affect the price? Not too much, because already a lot has been released. So don't worry too much about it. However, this being said, when we're talking about where it could go, in my opinion, I would be shocked, personally, I would be shocked if it's not over $1. For me, obvious price ballpark with a massive target area is going to be around this whole point here. This first 1.61 level, around $1, just below $1, above $1, for me would be a pretty nice gain. Now, what is that in the grand scheme of things? Well, a $1 level at roughly 6.3 billion would be a 24x, which is a pretty huge sum. But as I say, right, this could go much higher with the hype of a market as well as being a solid project. So where else can we look at? Well, for me, you got to look at this point here of $2. Now, a lot of people as well on my comments and stuff like that have been talking about Matic, Polygon, where it went from that level to a certain level. And a lot of people are like, I'm not doing what I did with Matic. And I was the exact same with Matic. I got footed out of my bags with Matic, and I watched it go from $0 to literally $2-3, which is absolute mental, right? When you think about how this went from like here at like literally cents, not even a cent at certain points of the market, which is crazy, to here. So I don't want to do that as a bit of a boo-boo again, because I did. I openly hold my hands up to that. So this is a huge thing. So when we talk about the future and a $1.50 or a $2 level, $2 is not going to be too much of an upshot when we look at the grand scheme of things in terms of how much it could be worth in value. And that would be, let's just say, $12.7 billion. Remember, Cardano hit $95 billion. Matic as another example as well. When you look at what the Matic you know, price levels are right now. Bear with me, let me just find the freaking thing. There it is. It's currently sat at 5 billion. Remember, it was a $3 billion asset. That makes it a much different proposition. If we look at that in terms of real-time speak, let's have a look at Matic. If we go back to its previous levels, 27.5. So is it totally unrealistic? Remember, 28 billion for Rose or Oasis Network is pretty interesting. Why is it interesting? Because that would put it at a $5.55. Now, I'm only making the comparison of price for Matic is because of what happened in the past. And a few people reminded me, wow, this kind of happened to Matic. Now, I'm not saying that this is possible, but a 27.9 billion for one big asset like this, it's not unreasonable in the future. It definitely is not in terms of what it is. If Matic can get there in the previous cycle, considering it was into like the hundreds of millions of market caps, anything can happen. Look at Solana, look at all these. It is speculative, it is hopium, I know, but I'm just saying, if people are disregarding the likes of $1, which is $5 billion, give or take, around that point, I know the circulating supply isn't correct right now, but you get the idea. So, if you enjoy this video, let me know. More content on Patreon, feel free to check it out, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.